that said, let's welcome on board Anand Roy, MD at Star Health and Allied Insurance Company Limited, to talk about health insurance premium and the kind of surges that they have been seeing. Anand, hi, good morning. Good to have you on the show. On a year-to-date basis, Anand, a sharp spike has been witnessed when it comes to health insurance premiums. What, according to you, is driving this growth, and do you see this sustaining in the long-term trajectory as well?
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me on the show. The current pandemic definitely has, increased the awareness of health insurance in the public at large, and we are seeing, trends of high demand in the individual and retail health insurance segment, and where customers are buying policies for themselves and their family members. And I think that's that's leading the growth, demand for the industry as such. We are also seeing a lot of uptake of COVID-specific policies, which has been launched by the regulator IRDAI, very timely. Where customers who did not have any kind of health coverage are able to buy a policy for themselves and their family at a very affordable cost. And lastly, we are also seeing obviously much higher type of coverage, where customers are going for higher limits, both at the time of buying a new policy as well as while renewing their existing coverage. They are increasing their coverage limits, largely driven by this awareness of hospitalization costs, which has happened because of this COVID. So broadly, these are the trends we are noticing.
Sure. Health insurance, Anand, clearly has overtaken the auto or motor segment as the largest contributor now to the general insurance industry. What is the growth outlook that you've penciled in for FY22?
See, health insurance has always been the fastest growing segment even before the outbreak of this pandemic, because it's still a very underpenetrated market, with less than 10% of the Indian population have any kind of health insurance, other than the population which is covered by mass insurance schemes of the state governments or the central government. So this has been the fastest growing segment. And as I told earlier, after this outbreak of the pandemic, it has been seen globally as well as the signs are seen in India, where the awareness of the hospitalization cost and resultant outgo from anyone's savings has increased the demand for health insurance. I would not like to compare it with motor, because motor is largely a compulsory product, required by law. So health insurance is a voluntary, purchase. So to that extent, it has become the largest segment right now, and it will remain so, I believe, because of the great demand which has been created. Going forward, even in the FY22, I think the health insurance segment should grow close to 20% on a YOY basis. And amongst the health insurance segment, I think the retail health insurance segment will be growing much faster, at least higher than 30% on a YOY basis.
What about some of the trends that you're seeing on ground, Anand? Millennials, for example, are they driving the growth momentum? Are you seeing that as a particular trend in terms of adoption and traction? Or are you seeing other trends as well across ages? Share with us anything that you've seen evolving.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very great question. Typically, before maybe if you go back before the outbreak of this pandemic, the millennials used to think that they do not need to buy a health insurance because nothing would happen at that age group. But I think that mindset has now changed, and we are seeing a tremendous demand from the millennial segment. Almost 50% of our new policies which are being sold is coming from this particular age group, that is the millennials. So I think there's a great awareness that has been created in this age group that health insurance is not something that they can postpone any longer, because diseases, whether it is the coronavirus or any other kind of unfortunate hospitalization, can happen at any age group. I think that realization has set in. But we are also seeing substantial uptake of at Star Health, we have a product for the senior citizens, which is targeted towards people who are above 60 and up to 75 years of age. We are seeing a very rapid uptake of that product also, because it's not only the elderly who are buying insurance for themselves, it's also the millennials and the younger age group who are buying insurance for their parents and elderly in their family. I think these are the two segments we are seeing a very rapid increase.
Okay, great. Talk to us also about the changes you foresee in distribution, between online channels as well as, what kind of capital perhaps or strategy you're putting behind it to ramp up, digital platforms vis-a-vis traditional modes?
Yeah, so our company, we have been largely a retail player with very large agency distribution, where we have more than 400,000 agents who are selling our products across the country. So the distribution model hasn't changed much, in the sense that agents still continue to do, the largest share of business, at least, with Star Health. But what we have seen is the digital adoption across the agency channel as well as other, distribution channels, whether it is the banks or whether it is, other distributors like brokers or web aggregators or corporate agents. All of them have really adopted rapidly to the digital modes of doing business. Obviously, necessitated by the current situation, but also, they have it has given much, improvement in productivity. The customer engagement has been much better. So I think, the adoption of digital has been extremely rapid during this lockdown phase. Earlier, what used to be about 20-25% digital business for us has now become close to 75 to 80% digital business. Distribution channels remain more or less the same. The ways of doing business has moved digital.
Okay, we'll let you go on that note. Thank you so much for joining in, Anand, and giving us a sense as to what really has been the outlook when it comes to these health premiums, as well as the growth momentum and whether or not it could potentially sustain. But